The massive communication hub of the Galactic Council buzzed with its usual activity. Hundreds of alien beings moved between glowing screens and crystal panels, monitoring signals from across the galaxy. Senior Analyst Veltar, a tall creature, with silver skin and 4 arms, sat at his workstation, examining routine transmissions, when something unusual caught his attention. A new signal had appeared on his scanner. It was coming from a distant star system that their records showed as empty and lifeless. Veltar's large eyes widened as he studied the data streaming across his screen. The transmission was unlike anything he had seen before. "This is strange," he muttered, adjusting the controls to get a clearer reading. The signal contained mathematical patterns, star charts, and what appeared to be some kind of message. Most interesting of all, it seemed to be a cry for help. Veltar called over his supervisor, Commander Thexul, a blue-skinned Zephyrian with long, graceful limbs. The Zephyrians were known throughout the galaxy as peaceful diplomats who had successfully made contact with dozens of new species. "Commander, you need to see this," Veltar said, pointing to his screen. "We're receiving a transmission from the 3rd planet in the Sol system. The beings there call themselves humans." The Exul moved closer, his trained eyes scanning the data. The transmission was sophisticated yet desperate. It contained basic information about the sender's biology, their planet's location, and their technology level. But what stood out most was the emotional undertone of the message. "They're asking for help," Thexul realized, his voice filled with concern. "Their world is dying, and they've managed to build this transmission system to reach out to anyone who might be listening." The human signal included images of their planet, a beautiful blue and green world that showed signs of environmental damage. The message spoke of climate change, resource depletion, and a civilization struggling to survive. It was a plea from a species that had just discovered they were not alone in the universe. Word of the discovery spread quickly through the Council's headquarters. Within hours, representatives from dozens of species had gathered to examine the transmission. The data was clear. Somewhere in a remote corner of the galaxy, intelligent species was facing extinction and reaching out for salvation. The Zephyrians, with their long history of successful first contact missions, immediately volunteered to respond. Their leader, High Commander Zoeth, addressed the gathered council members in the Great Assembly Hall. "We have encountered this situation before," Zoeth said, his calm voice carrying across the chamber. "A young species discovers space communication and calls out in desperation. It is our duty to help them." The council agreed unanimously. The Zephyrians would organize a rescue mission to the human homeworld. Commander Thexul was chosen to lead the expedition, with instructions to approach peacefully and offer immediate humanitarian aid. Back in the communication center, Dr. Quinara, a respected xenobiologist, continued studying the human transmission. The aliens had included detailed information about their physical structure, the planet's atmosphere, and their basic technology. Everything suggested a species that had barely achieved spaceflight and was now facing its final days. Their bipedal carbon-based life forms, Dr. Quinara reported to the Mission Planning Committee. Their atmosphere is oxygen-rich, similar to several worlds we've encountered. Their technology appears primitive but functional. The humans had also included what appeared to be cultural information, music, art, and mathematical concepts that showed a complex but struggling civilization. The transmission painted a picture of a species that had achieved great things, was now running out of time. Commander Thexul assembled his fleet carefully. 3 ships would make the journey: the science vessel Harmony, the medical ship Sanctuary, and the diplomatic vessel Peacekeeper. Each ship was equipped with advanced medical equipment, food supplies, and terraforming technology that could help restore damaged worlds. The crew was selected from the best and most experienced Zephyrian explorers. They had successfully made contact with 43 different species, always with peaceful intentions and positive results. This mission would be no different, as the fleet prepared for departure. The human signal continued to arrive at the communication center. The transmission seemed to be getting stronger, more desperate. The aliens were clearly putting all their remaining resources into this final attempt to make contact with other intelligent life. Standard first contact protocol, Vexel announced to his crew during the final briefing. "We approach with all weapons powered down, broadcast our peaceful intentions on all frequencies, and offer immediate assistance. These humans are clearly in distress." The Zephyrian ships entered hyperspace, carrying supplies that could save an entire world. The crew was excited about the mission. They would be heroes, the ones who answered a dying civilization's call for help and brought them back from the edge of extinction. None of them suspected that the desperate transmission they had received was actually something far more dangerous. The humans were not crying out for salvation. They were setting a trap. And the Zephyrians, with their peaceful nature and predictable protocols, were flying directly into it. The signal that had seemed like a beacon of hope was actually a war cry, and humanity had been waiting patiently for someone to answer it. The 3 Zephyrian ships dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the human solar system. Commander Vexel stood on the bridge of the Harmony, looking at the small blue planet that appeared on his main screen. Earth looked peaceful and beautiful. With white clouds swirling over blue oceans and green continents, begin standard approach, Vexel ordered his crew, "Reduce speed to minimum and power down all weapon systems. We want to show these humans that we come in peace." The Zephyrian fleet moved slowly toward Earth, following the same peaceful protocols they had used dozens of times before. Their ships were clearly marked with council symbols and broadcasting friendship messages on all frequencies. On Earth's surface, deep inside a military command center buried beneath a mountain, Admiral Kim Tae-ho watched the alien ships approach. The gray-haired human had been waiting for this moment for 3 years, ever since they had sent out the fake distress signal. 3 ships, just as we predicted, Kim said to his tactical officer, Major Park Sujin. They're following exactly the same pattern our intelligence suggested they would use. The command center was filled with activity. Human soldiers sat at advanced computer systems, tracking every movement of the approaching alien vessels. Hidden weapon platforms throughout, the solar system came online, their targeting systems locked onto the Zephyrian ships. "Sir, they're broadcasting a message," reported Communications Officer Lee Min-ho. "It's a standard greeting, offering help and requesting permission to approach." Admiral Kim smiled coldly. "Let them get closer. Need to capture at least one." Ship intact. The Zephyrians continued their approach, completely unaware of the trap they were flying into. Commander Thessul prepared the standard first contact message. It's the same one that had worked successfully with every other species they had encountered. "Greetings, people of Earth." Thessul broadcast toward the planet. "We are the Zephyrians of the Galactic Council. We received your distress signal and have come to offer assistance. We bring medical supplies, food, and technology to help save your world." The response came immediately and was nothing like what the Zephyrians expected. Instead of grateful replies or confused questions, the humans opened fire with weapons that should not have existed on a primitive world. "Shields up," Vexel shouted as energy beams slammed into the Harmony's hull. The ship shook violently under the attack, its defensive systems struggling against surprisingly powerful weapons. In the command center, Admiral Kim watched the battle unfold exactly as planned. Target their engines, not their life support systems. He ordered, "We need prisoners who can tell us about their technology." The human defense platforms hidden throughout the solar system revealed themselves. Firing coordinated volleys at the Zephyrian ships, the aliens found themselves surrounded by weapons that appeared from nowhere, a peaceful approach turning into a nightmare of explosions and damage alerts. Lieutenant Commander Lee Haijin piloted one of Earth's new stealth fighters. Invisible. 2 Zephyrian sensors until she was close enough to strike. Her orders were clear. Disable the alien ships and prepare them for boarding. "This is Lightning Squadron," she reported over the radio. "Beginning attack run on target 2. The Peacekeeper, the smallest of the 3 Zephyrian ships, was the first to fall. Human fighters swarmed around it like angry insects, their weapons precisely targeting its engines and communication systems. Within minutes, the ship was drifting helplessly in space. Commander Vexel watched in horror as his peaceful mission turned into a military disaster. The humans were not desperate refugees. They were skilled warriors with advanced technology and perfect tactical coordination. "How is this possible?" Dr. Quinar asked from the medical bay as the ship shook around her. Their distress signal showed a primitive civilization on the edge of collapse. It was a lie, Vexul realized, his voice filled with disbelief.
"What?"
The entire transmission was designed to lure us here. The sanctuary managed to launch several escape pods before human boarding parties cut through its hull. The Zephyrian crew inside found themselves facing human soldiers in advanced armor, carrying weapons that could cut through their ship's walls like paper. Captain Yoon Jae-soon led the boarding party that captured the Peacekeeper. His soldiers moved through the alien ship with practiced efficiency, stunning the crew with non-lethal weapons and securing all important areas. "Ship secured," Yoon reported to Admiral Kim. "We have 17 prisoners, and their computer systems are intact." Harmony, badly damaged, but still functional, managed to retreat with half of the sanctuary's crew. Commander the Sul ordered an emergency jump to hyperspace, leaving behind the captured Peacekeeper and its crew, as the remaining Zephyrian ships limped away from Earth. Admiral Kim studied the captured alien technology. The plan had worked perfectly. The fake distress signal had drawn exactly the kind of peaceful, helpful species they had hoped to encounter. "Begin reverse engineering immediately," Kim ordered Dr. Choi Manesio, his chief scientist. "I want to know everything about their faster-than-light travel systems." The captured Zephyrians were taken to secure facilities where human interrogators would learn everything about the Galactic Council, its military capabilities, and the locations of other alien worlds. Commander Vexul, now racing back toward Council space, realized the terrible truth. The humans had not been calling for help. They had been hunting. The distress signal was bait. The Zephyrians had taken it completely. The message he would carry back to the Council would change everything. The species they had tried to save were not victims, but predators. And they had just given humanity everything it needed to spread beyond Earth. The Great Hall of the Galactic Council had never seen such chaos. Representatives from 200 different species filled the massive chamber, their voices creating a symphony of confusion and fear. At the center of it all stood Commander Vexul, his blue skin pale and his hands shaking as he delivered his report. "The humans are not what we thought," Vexul said, his voice carrying across the silent hall. "They possess weapons that can destroy our ships in minutes. Their technology is far beyond what any single planet species should have." The holographic display above the commander showed the wreckage of the Peacekeeper floating in space around Earth. The twisted metal and burned hull told a story that many council members refused to believe. "Counselor." Murdoch of the Korthok Empire slammed his clawed fist on his table. The reptilian warrior had fought in dozens of battles and conquered many worlds for his people. "You expect us to believe that primitives from an unknown world defeated Zephyrian ships?" he growled. "Impossible." "The evidence is here," Vexul replied, gesturing to the recordings of the battle. "Watch for yourself. Their weapons, their tactics, their coordination. Everything shows a species that has never stopped preparing for war." The Council's chief intelligence officer, a multi-eyed being named Zixonal, had spent weeks studying every piece of data from the human encounter. What she had discovered was far more disturbing than a simple military defeat. "The distress signal was a trap," Zixonal announced, her multiple eyes focusing on different parts of the massive display. "Every mathematical sequence, every piece of information, every star chart was designed to make us respond in a specific way." The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The humans had not been calling for help. They had been hunting for other intelligent species. The signal that had seemed like a desperate cry for salvation was actually a carefully planned military operation. General Voxstar of the Hegemony Defense Force stood up, his mechanical implants worry as he processed the tactical data. "If this is true, then we face a threat unlike anything we have encountered in centuries. These humans have been studying us, learning our weaknesses, preparing for this moment." The Hegemony controlled the largest military force in the galaxy, with warships stationed in every major system. But even General Voxstar looked worried as he studied the human weapon systems and battle tactics. "We must act quickly," declared High Counselor Render. the elderly leader of the council. If the humans acquire faster-than-light technology from our captured ships, they will spread throughout the galaxy. But it was already too late. On Earth, human scientists were working around the clock to understand the alien technology they had captured. Dr. Choi Minesio led a team of the planet's best engineers as they studied every component of the Zephyrian ships. "We're making progress," Dr. Choi reported to Admiral Kim during their daily briefing. "The hyperspace drive system is more complex than we thought, but we're beginning to understand how it works." The captured Zephyrian crew members were being held in secure facilities where human interrogators used both gentle questioning and advanced technology to extract information. The peaceful aliens, trained for diplomacy rather than resistance, provided detailed information about Council military capabilities and the locations of important worlds. Captain Nam Suho, head of the interrogation team, presented his findings to the military command. "They've given us star charts for over 300 systems, details about Council ship designs, and information about their command structure. Most importantly, they've told us about their weaknesses." The Council species had lived in peace for so long that they had forgotten how to fight a real war. Their military tactics were outdated, their weapons designed for defense rather than attack, and their political system too slow to respond to a fast-moving threat. Back in the Council chambers, the debate continued. Some species wanted to negotiate with the humans, hoping to find a peaceful solution. Others called for immediate military action before the humans could leave their solar system. "We should send a larger fleet," suggested Admiral Kekstar of the Outer Rim Defense Force, "show them our strength and force them to surrender." "That's exactly what they want," Commander Vexel warned. "They're preparing for war while we're still trying to understand what happened. Every day we delay gives them more time to study our technology." Council xenobiologist Dr. Yeltsin had been studying the human cultural information included in their original signal. What she found painted a picture of a species that had never known lasting peace. "Their entire history is warfare," Dr. Yeltsin reported to the emergency session. "They've been fighting each other for thousands of years, developing weapons and tactics that we can barely comprehend. While we've been living in peace, they've been preparing for this moment." The final decision came from High Counselor Render after 3 days of debate. "We will assemble a joint military force from all Council species. The humans must be contained before they can spread beyond their world." But as the Council argued and planned, human scientists achieved their breakthrough. Dr. Choi's team had successfully reverse-engineered the Zephyrian hyperspace technology and adapted it for human ships. "How long before our fleet is ready?" Admiral Kim asked as he reviewed the technical reports. 72 hours, Dr. Choi replied. "We'll have 20 ships equipped with hybrid human-alien technology, armed with weapons designed specifically to counter Council defenses." The Council had made their decision too late. While they debated and organized, humanity had already begun preparing for the next phase of their plan. The hunters were about to become the hunted, and the galaxy would never be the same. The Korthok military base on Terminus 7 was the strongest fortress in the galaxy. Its massive walls could withstand planet-killing weapons, and its defense fleet had never lost a battle. General Morgok, the base commander, felt completely safe as he watched his morning patrol ships return from their routine mission. "All quiet in Sector 7, reported his communications officer. "No unusual activity detected." General Morgok nodded and turned back to his tactical display. The Korthok Empire had been preparing for war with the humans for weeks, but he was confident in his forces. No single planet species could challenge the might of the galaxy's greatest warriors. That confidence lasted exactly 17 seconds after the human fleet arrived. Captain Yoon Jae-soon stood on the bridge of the Retribution. As it dropped out of hyperspace directly above the Korthak base, his ship and 19 others had traveled across the galaxy in complete silence, using stolen alien technology to avoid detection. "All ships report ready for combat," announced Lieutenant Nam Dae-yoon from her tactical station. "Enemy fighters are scrambling to intercept us." The Korthok pilots launched their fighters in perfect formation, just as their training manuals instructed. They had no way of knowing that human intelligence had studied those same manuals for months, learning every tactic and counter-tactic the aliens would use. "Remember, we're not just fighting a battle," Captain Yoon told his crew. We're sending a message to every species in the galaxy. Today they learn what happens when you threaten humanity. Space battle lasted exactly 17 minutes. When it ended, the Korthok base was a burning wreck floating in space, and its defense fleet was scattered debris. The few surviving alien pilots would carry word of humanity's power to every corner of the galaxy. But Terminus 7 was just the beginning. At the exact same moment, human strike forces attacked 26 other targets across the galaxy. Admiral Kim's war plan was simple and brutal. Hit everything at once. Before the enemy could organize a response, on the industrial world of Fabricus Prime, Major SEOG-1 led her commando team through the planet's main communication center. The facility was responsible for sending messages between hundreds of star systems, making it a perfect target for disruption. Charges set on the main transmitter, reported Sergeant Park Min-jeon over the radio. 30 seconds to detonation. The human soldiers moved through the alien facility like ghosts, their advanced armor making them invisible to the security systems. Within minutes, they had destroyed equipment that had taken decades to build. Similar attacks were happening on dozens of worlds. Human forces struck at communication hubs, military bases, and industrial centers with surgical precision. Each target had been chosen carefully to maximize damage to the Council's ability to fight back. In the command center on Earth, Admiral Kim watched the reports flow in from his strike teams. Every attack was succeeding beyond his wildest expectations. The alien species had grown soft during their centuries of peace, unable to defend against enemies who had never stopped preparing for war. Communication hub on Nexus Prime is down, reported Colonel Han Min-jun. The Council won't be able to coordinate their response for at least a week. Industrial centers on 7 worlds have been neutralized, added Major Lee Ha-young. Their ability to build new weapons has been severely damaged. The Council's attempts to organize a counterattack were failing everywhere. Their military leaders couldn't communicate with each other, their supply lines were cut, and their most important bases were under constant attack. On the Zephyrian homeworld, Commander Dexel tried desperately to reach other Council forces. The communication systems were down, the hyperspace relays were destroyed, and human ships were appearing everywhere. Asked Dr. Quinara, as explosions lit up the sky outside their shelter. How can they attack so many places at once? They've been planning this for years, Dexel realized. Every piece of information in that distress signal was designed to tell them exactly what they needed to know about us. The human strategy was becoming clear. They had studied the Council's military structure, identified its weaknesses, and planned their attacks to exploit every flaw. While the aliens had been debating and organizing, humanity had been preparing for total war. Ambassador Lee Kung-soo delivered humanity's terms to the surviving Council leaders in a broadcast that reached every inhabited system. His message was simple and direct. Surrender your military forces and submit to human authority, or face complete destruction. The response from most species was immediate surrender. The hegemony, the Outer Rim Alliance, the Trade Federation. One by one, they realized that resistance was impossible. The humans had proven that they could strike anywhere, anytime, with weapons that no defense could stop. But some species refused to give up. The Korthok Empire, humiliated by the destruction of Terminus 7, gathered their remaining forces for a final battle. General Morgak, one of the few survivors from the base, led a desperate counterattack against the human fleet. The battle lasted less than an hour. Human ships equipped with captured alien technology and improved by human engineering tore through the Korthok forces like paper. The galaxy's greatest warriors were defeated by an enemy they had underestimated, as reports of victory came in from across the galaxy. Admiral Kim allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. The plan that had begun with a fake distress signal was working perfectly. The Council species had come to save what they thought was a dying civilization. But instead, they had awakened the galaxy's most dangerous predators. The war cry had been heard and humanity had answered with overwhelming force. 2 years had passed since the first human ships had left Earth, and the galaxy was completely different. Admiral Kim stood in what used to be the Great Hall of the Galactic Council, serving as the command center for humanity's expanding empire. The alien symbols on the walls had been replaced with human writing, and the peaceful atmosphere had been transformed into a military headquarters. Daily reports from all sectors announced Governor Park Jin-woo as he entered the chamber. The former diplomat now controlled 12 star systems that had once belonged to the Zephyrian Republic. Production is up 15%, and there have been no major incidents. Kim nodded as he studied the holographic display, showing the status of conquered worlds. Green lights indicated systems under full human control, while yellow lights showed areas still being pacified. There were very few red lights left. Most resistance had been crushed months ago. The irony was not lost on the Admiral. The same Zephyrians who had come to rescue humanity now worked as administrators in their own territories. Nature made them perfect for maintaining order under human rule, and they had adapted surprisingly well to their new roles. Director Jang Hyo-jin, head of the Galactic Intelligence Service, entered with her daily briefing. 17 resistance cells have been identified across the Outer Rim territories, she reported. But they lack coordination and advanced weapons. Our counterintelligence operations have prevented any unified uprising. The key to humanity's success had been their understanding of their enemies. For decades before first contact, human scientists had been monitoring alien communications, studying different species, learning their weaknesses. In preparing for this exact moment, Dr. Choi Manesio, now serving as Minister of Technological Integration, had become one of the most important people in the new government. Her team had successfully combined the best technology from dozens of alien civilizations with human innovation and military thinking. The new ship designs are ready for production, Dr. Choi announced. We've integrated Korthok armor plating with Zephyrian engines and our own weapon systems. The result is better than anything any single species ever created. In the former Council archives, Ambassador Lee Kung-soo spent his days reading the historical records of galactic civilization. What he found confirmed what human strategists had always suspected centuries of peace had made the alien species weak and unprepared for real warfare. The last major war ended 400 years ago, Lee reported to the daily briefing. Since then, most species have focused on trade, diplomacy, and cultural exchange. Their military capabilities became outdated, and their strategic thinking became focused on defense rather than conquest. The contrast with humanity could not have been greater. While the aliens had been living in peace, humans had never stopped fighting wars, developing weapons, and improving their military tactics. When the two civilizations finally met, the outcome was inevitable. Colonel Han Minjin entered the command center with news from the outer territories. The final resistance cell on Rigel Prime has been eliminated, he announced. All systems are now under complete human control. Admiral Kim turned to look out at the stars through the massive windows of the former council chamber. Those stars now belonged to humanity, and the species that had once ruled them now served human interests. The plan had been perfect in its simplicity. The fake distress signal had been designed to attract exactly the kind of peaceful, helpful species that would be easy to defeat. The Zephyrians had responded exactly as human psychologists had predicted, bringing with them the technology and information that humanity needed to spread across the galaxy. Status report from the Korthok territories requested Kim as he reviewed the morning briefings. Former General Morgak has been very cooperative, replied Governor Park. The Korthak warriors have accepted their defeat and are now serving as security forces under human command. Their aggressive nature makes them useful for maintaining order in the more difficult systems. The transformation of the galaxy's most feared warriors into human security guards was perhaps the most symbolic victory of all. The Korthak Empire had once controlled dozens of worlds through military might, but they had been completely outmatched by human tactics and technology. Dr. Quinara, the former Zephyrian scientist, had been allowed to continue her research under human supervision. Her studies of human culture and behavior had revealed the truth that the Council had learned too late. Their entire history is warfare, she had written in her final report. While we developed art, philosophy, and peaceful cooperation, they perfected the science of conquest. When we met them, we were facing 10,000 years of military evolution. The captured Zephyrian crew members had been treated well, eventually becoming valuable assets in the new government. Their knowledge of alien cultures and languages made them perfect translators and administrators. As Admiral Kim reviewed the daily reports from across the galaxy, he reflected on how perfectly everything had worked. His species that had thought themselves humanity's saviors had become the instruments of their own defeat. The beacon that had seemed like a desperate cry for help had indeed been a war cry, and humanity had answered it with the systematic conquest of the galaxy. The aliens had come expecting to find a dying civilization, but instead they had found predators who had been waiting patiently for prey to come to them. The new galactic order was complete, and humanity stood triumphant among the stars they had always been destined to rule.